A girl glute tutorial. So in today's video we're going to be looking at our athletic girl. So it'll be a little bit smaller, a little bit more shaped than some of the other ones, but there'll be some interesting shapes and curves going on. And unlike our other sort of figure setty videos, we're just going to be looking and studying only the glutes here, so we can get into a little bit more detail and see some various poses and positionings. So we'll start with just two for this first video. And first we'll just have them standing slightly at an angle. So that way we can kind of look more at the curvature. So I'm going to put a center line through here. And I want there to be more space in the hip that's facing us than the one that's away from us. Just because that way the perspective is correct. I'll connect these two. I'll bring it up in my little hip shape here. Do the same over here. Then I'll put in my little leg sockets here. And what it will do is draw out our first glute. Like so. So the overall shape, because this is an athletic girl, she's gonna have a little bit more shape to her glute. So it's not gonna be real saggy or anything. It's gonna be a little bit bubbly looking. So we still want to keep this initial line a little bit straighter, and then you really tuck it in at the bottom. So it's kind of straight and smooth, and then it has a real big tuck at the very bottom. So then we'll do the same thing over here. Bring it down, tuck it in. Then I'll throw in my thighs, like so. Then we can follow this line, add in our ribs, our back, cut this off. We'll be seeing a little bit of the stomach from this angle. Add in our back muscles like so. There we go. And then in the actual line art process, these lines down here won't be as long or exaggerated. Just that way it fits a little bit more smoothly into the overall shape that we're looking for. Because again, she's athletic, so she doesn't have a whole lot of fat content on her glutes, so we don't want her glutes to look too large. We're just trying to make them shapely and stick out just a little bit. So next we will look at her straight from the back, but this time she's going to be walking away from us because the glutes are going to take different shapes when that happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our hip line at an ever so slight angle, okay? Then we're going to put our center line through that. Now we'll try to evenly line up our hips here and connect them. And this is because we want this left side of the hip lower than the right. And that is because as she's walking away from us, the leg that's coming towards us is going to be pushing that side of the hip up a little bit. So the leg stepping away from us is going to be tilted down slightly. And we just want it to be very slight. We don't want it to be too extreme of a difference and it looks a little off. We want something like that. So from here, we'll just add in a very simple back, just so we know what's going on there. And so try to keep it on this side not quite as stretched. We want it to be a little bit pudgier, because over here it's going to be, or oops, I need to do that opposite. So over here it's going to be a little bit more scrunched, because this hip is closer to the rib line, whereas this one that's further away is going to be a little bit more stretched. So we're going to do it like that. Then from here we can add in our hip sockets. So we'll make this leg coming back at us. Not anything too crazy, something like that. And we'll add in this, make this a little bit smaller. So again, she's still a smaller character, so we don't want the thigh to be too large here. And we'll put this in. So now we can actually put the glutes over top of this. So what we'll do is attach this, like so. Alright, so unlike before where the glutes are just kind of hanging, this time we've actually got a glute in action here. So what we're going to do is the glute is going to follow the shape of the thigh here. And then what we want to do is we want to make it real bubbly and firm because it's contracting. So the glute muscle itself is going to be really strong. So we want to add a nice exaggerated pinching looking effect like this. Then over on this other side, we can just add a little bump from where the glute is going to be on this smaller character. And then we can just add a little line roughly evenly with this line here coming down, and because this glute is stretching but in the other way, so it's not having quite as much action, because this glute's going to appear higher and be riding this leg, so it's going to have a little bit different shape. It's going to be a little bit stronger, a little perkier, whereas this glute is just kind of being stretched away from us. So we're not going to be seeing too much of it. And again, on this smaller character, we don't want this bump here to be too large, otherwise it just makes our butt look too big. So I'll add in some muscle there. So now we can just go ahead and put in our line art. So again, I'm not concerned about the back and stomach area here. Just concerned about the glutes. So I'm just dropping in a very fast back, like so. Then again, we're going to keep a straighter line coming down. Then we'll start a slight curve into a very exaggerated tuck. And you just do that until you can get the shape that you want. That's the shape I want, but now I just want this to be a little bit smaller. So I'm just gonna do this so it's a little bit more flattened out on the edge. So now the same thing over here, like so. I'll bring this line up a little, just so that way it's a little bit more even. I'll connect these two lines. I'm not super concerned about the quality of my line art here, since it's just a steady. And I'll kind of just erase this so these blend a little bit nicer. So we're just barely seeing her hip poking through on that end. Then we'll attach these with some rather soft looking thighs. Just because she's a lot thinner than our other characters doesn't mean that she's not going to still appear to be soft. So we're going to make her look a little bit soft and do that. So again, it's kind of flat and then it really tucks. And if you want it to be real perky, then you could give it more curve like that, which is kind of how I originally had the line, but I would like it to be just a little bit flattened there, just because we're trying to keep that sort of flat into the tuck shape. That's just a more natural looking glute. Next, we will work on this one. So for this, again, I'm just putting in a very quick back, remembering to keep this side a little bit more scrunched together, so it's going to be a little bit plumper looking right there. Whereas this end is the opposite. It's stretched downward. So it's going to be a little bit thinner, a little more stretchy looking. Just like this. Then we really want to exaggerate the curvature on this glute because it's pulling the leg back. So it's going to be sort of tight and plump, and it's going to be pushing up a little. And then notice this section here, it's riding my hamstrings, so it's not going to just be shaped like this. It's actually going to be riding on top, like so, because then from there, I can throw in my thighs. I'm just cutting off, so I'm just showing with a little circle. You'd have, you know, the leg would keep going, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're just looking at the glutes here. Then roughly at the same sort of positioning here, I'm going to drop in a little line here for the other glute, along with just barely seeing my other thigh. So, because since this leg is kind of coming back at us like this, she's not going to have as exaggerated of a thigh gap here. Now you could make it like that. You could make this a lot skinnier, and then you could see it more clearly, but that is completely up to you. For this character, we're just not going to be seeing it too deeply. And then throw this in, like so. So, I'm going to throw this right here. Like this. Okay. So I'm still keeping this glute lower than this one, because again, this one's being pushed up since it's doing all the pulling. So this little line right here is going to be not even way up here. And then same with this glute over here. And because this one is being stretched back, it's going away from us, like so. I want to keep this real smooth and round, because again, this character has sort of small glutes, so because of that, it's not going to be an exaggerated, you know, curve into the glute, into the hamstring, like what we're going to see on our other characters who have larger glutes. Then I'll just cut this off. And yeah, so again, we're just focusing on the shape. Try to find a shape you like. A little bit straighter at the top, really curve it in. From this back angle, here on our hamstrings, we're not going to really see too much shapes like this. So if we have a little glute here, we're not going to really see too much like that. We're just going to kind of pudge out. That kind of keeps it a really nice, soft looking feel. And we don't want this character to turn too rigid, even though she's still quite skinny. We don't want her to look really, really firm. We still want her to have a softness. But that basically wraps it up for part 1 of this tutorial, and I will see you in part 2.